Hey everyone, this is Mason Hutchison, and you're listening to HerbRally, your daily herbal podcast. We come out with new episodes about 5 days a week, so be sure to tune in often. Our goal for the show is to help you along your herbalist journey, no matter what stage you're at. We have over 644 episodes, so feel free to peruse those episodes, and you're bound to find something of interest. Today's episode is another Herbalist Hour interview, and this one was with KhadiYah Preciado. And I know KhadiYah through her wonderful YouTube channel called Her Healthy Home, which is up over 8,000 subscribers now. So if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to go to YouTube and subscribing to Her Healthy Home, you could check out a lot more of what KhadiYah's up to. She's also an author, which we talk about a couple of her books during the interview as well. So you can learn more about KhadiYah. She actually has her domain name as her first name, KhadiYah. That's KhadiYah.com, and it'll reroute you to her actual website, but that's pretty neat. Anyways, it was a pleasure to speak with KhadiYah, get to know her a little bit more. She's done some other YouTube videos for us, along with some of our HerbRally Schoolhouse classes. But yeah, it was nice to interview her and just kind of hear her story. If you didn't know, all of these Herbalist Hour interviews are also available on our YouTube channel. So if you'd like to see our faces during the chat, just go to YouTube and search for HerbRally. Should pop right up. And while you're there, pretty please go ahead and give us a subscribe. That'd mean a lot to us. So that's going to do it for me today. Hope you enjoy this interview with KhadiYah on the Herbalist Hour. All right, I'll talk to you later. Take care.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and the flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Umami, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
Welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. Today I'm joined by KhadiYah Preciado, and KhadiYah is a herbalist and an author, and also hosts a wonderful YouTube channel called Her Healthy Home. Go ahead and pause the episode right now and go subscribe to her on YouTube. But KhadiYah, welcome to the show. KhadiYah, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm happy to have you, and yeah, I've been wanting to ask you some of these questions for a while now. Very curious about like your herbal origin story, if you will. Like, how did you get into this whole herbalism thing?
I would say it started with a journey just of me always wanting to be healthier, trying to eat healthy, and just trying to educate myself on what I should be doing. And when I went away to college, I actually had to take over doing my hair. In the Black community, it's a big thing to get our hair done. And so I didn't know how to braid or do anything. And I didn't have the money to go and get it done either. So I had to learn myself. And so once I had the options to look at ingredients and things like that, it led me to want to be healthier. And so it just started, I started learning about different herbs and making my own things. And so that's how I first started with the herbs, just playing around with them, being a little chemist in the kitchen.
Sure. Yeah. Did you have any, like, say, early herbal mentors? Did you go to any sort of herb school, or you mostly self-taught, or?
Yeah, so I would say my herbal mentor, not really. I had his books, and I did get to see him in one event, but he's actually deceased, and it was Dr. Leila. And so I read all his books. I watched many different videos of his, but I had to really learn my own and make sense of it. And so, so I would say that would be my mentor, but really I'm just self-taught, just learning things, experimenting, trying things out.
Sounds about right. Yeah, I've got a similar situation as well. Do you have any, like, say, early plant memories, like some plants when you were a child that kind of had an effect on you?
I grew up in New York, in Queens, New York. It was, and so we didn't really see much plants. It was just, just a little patch of grass, if anything. But then when my mom moved us for high school, we were in Tennessee. So it was a big shock. Lots of trees and greenery and things like that. And so I had started, but then when my husband left the military, we had our first backyard. And so I just started with some of our more food herbs, I say, things, tomatoes and peppers, and it just kind of grew. But yeah, it really started, people would be so surprised to know how I am so deep with herbs today, because I was, always scared of bugs, and, I never really had interest in herbs. It just was something that sparked later.
Yeah. if I recall correctly, so you grew up in New York, but now you live in Tennessee, correct? What brought you to Tennessee?
My mom, she moved us for high school. So the area where we lived was getting more violence and things like that. So she wanted to move us someplace safer, but also a place where it was really kind of booming for education. The high school was, more top rate. And so she wanted to give us more opportunity. So I'm grateful for her because it opened up my eyes to see different people and, go through life in a new place. It was a hard thing, but it was a learning thing for me.
Would you say you kind of live on like a homestead now? Is that kind of what your situation's like?
Yeah, we turned our backyard into a homestead. I always like to say it's a normal backyard. We wanted acres and we got less than a quarter acre. But so, I was a bit sad about that. But we've just made it to where it's bustling. Like I have friends that have 3 acres and they don't even grow or eat as much as we do from our garden. So sometimes the things don't work out the way you want them to, but you learn with adaptability and just really using what you have that, you're not missing anything. So we're able to still have a piece of, the homestead land in our backyard.
Yeah, we actually just moved from a yard that was about also under a quarter acre over to Wisconsin, and our new yard is 0.1 acres. So it's a tenth of an acre. It's pretty teeny tiny. Super grateful for it. And actually, as we speak, Amanda's in the backyard digging up our backyard, our lawn, and we have plans of creating like a garden of sorts, a herb garden. Hopefully, grow some veggies as well. I'm just curious if you have any like tips for having like a homesteadish on a smaller piece of land.
Yeah, definitely a lot of tips. The land is limited, but your mind doesn't have to be limited with the opportunities. So that's what I learned, just to be really creative with things. So a lot of vertical kind of gardening. We went into square foot gardening, but I found that I'm still putting, even in between those 4 feet, I'm putting a plant in between, a herb in between. So it's just utilizing all the different spaces. I never like to have, because we have so much limited space, I never want to have anything that's bare. So we're always just trying to keep planting, succession planting. And I've learned also to just, there's some things that just naturally loves to grow in our backyard. And we can just go to sleep every night and know that it's gonna, we're gonna have a big harvest. So I just focus more on the things that we really love. Berries do really well. So we have so many different varieties of berries, and you just kind of make it, you make it work. And I have things that are on different tiered planters. I have even some things that may be hanging just from our little covered patio area. So you just learn to utilize everything. I have pots with little wheels on them so I can just move them. So yeah, you just learn to be, plants are flexible, and you have to be flexible too.
I like that you mentioned growing vertically. We were just reading Juliet Blankspor's book. I want to say it's like The Healing Garden. Maybe I'm getting that incorrect, but basically it's a book all about having a herbal garden in your yard. And she said, "Sky's the limit." I thought it was a fun pun, but totally, I was like, "Oh right, yeah, we could have like hop vines, and yeah, there's all sorts of I like your tip on just using every square inch and just being creative. What would you say are some of your favorite plants that you have growing in your yard, as far as like, well, I guess let me rephrase that. What 5 herbs would you recommend folks grow as far as like herbs grow in their yard?
Yeah. For me, I really love perennials. I feel like they're really hardy and they'll come back, every year, and they'll get stronger. And so some of the plants that I really love, I love comfrey. If you're a person who really loves like oil infusions, and also being able to feed your garden as well as a fertilizer, it can be a really wonderful plant. And then you can, dig it up. It grows a lot on the bottom. And the variety that I have too is picking the varieties, looking for container varieties or things like that. So you can still have the plant just in a smaller space. So I have a Baki 14, so it doesn't expand as much, but you can still dig it up and make more plants. So I like that it's, it's sustainable, and it stays in its same spot, but I can have more if I want to, and you have the option. Another plant, I love to grow different mints. I feel like it's impossible, almost impossible to kill off a mint once it gets really strong. And it gives you because you have to use it up before it just takes over, you'll get into having so much more, dried varieties, or you might try mint jelly. It gives you a lot of freedom because you have so much of it. So any mints, so lemon balm, peppermint, spearmint, different mints, catnip is even mint too. I love mints. I also love yarrow. It's so many uses. And yarrow is, again, I think a plant that's so hardy and spreads so much. So I think that for me, I like to have some ease a little bit in the garden too. So I love yarrow, and you can use it in so many different ways: teas, tinctures, and oils and things like that. So you get a variety of external, internal. I think it's really good. Some smaller space, saffron. It actually grows with bulbs, and so they don't take up too much space. And saffron is the most expensive herb by weight. And so if you can grow it, if you love to cook with it, you can actually use it, and you can use it for more than food too. Because I feel like sometimes if it's too expensive, you might feel like, oh, I have to save it for special occasions, but you don't have to when you grow it. So I think I'm up to 4 now. And then another one, let's see. There's so many.
So you're saying that you're growing saffron in your yard, huh?
Yes, I am. Mm-hmm.
That's oh yeah, it's I just recently kind of discovered how amazing it is, probably because it was cost prohibitive. But I remember when I worked at Mountain Rose Herbs, I got hooked up with like a little bit of it, and then I started putting in my rice and everything, and I absolutely love that. I never even thought of that as a potential to grow. Perhaps maybe not in Wisconsin though, but it grows well in Tennessee though, hey?
It's a cool weather.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it probably will do really well. But yeah, and sometimes we think like, we can't grow as much as we think, but there's a lot of things that we could actually, instead of outsourcing it, we can actually grow it. But you wouldn't think to grow, saffron. But yeah, you definitely can. Is there a 5th one? Raspberry. I guess I think of that more as food because my kids love to pick it. But raspberry, I just love it because it's a wild plant. And so I like to let it go wild. I make a nice little square and just you can plant it in the middle. And the next year it's all filled out and it'll keep making plants. And I found some actually growing in the, where it's not supposed to be. But it's a really wonderful plant, for women and men, but it's usually known and associated with women for all different, all throughout life. It just has wonderful benefits. And the leaves of it are more nutritious, more antioxidant than actually the berry. So I like to use both, and really delicious as well.
Hey everyone, it's Mason. Just a quick interruption from the show to let you know about our 13 herbal freebies. If you go to HerbRally.com, on the navigation bar at the top of the page, you'll see a button that says Freebies. Just click there and you'll sign up for our email newsletter. And in exchange, we're offering 13 herbal freebies. That's ebooks, webinars, videos, downloadable audio, and discounts to cool herbal companies. So if you'd like to check out these freebies as well as sign up for our email newsletter, we update you about current events, new monographs, new videos, etc. Just go to herbrally.com and click on the button at the top of the page that simply says freebies. Okay, that's it from me. Now back to the show. Raspberry leaf is actually one of my favorite teas to make. It actually kind of has like the astringency of like, say, a green tea. And yeah, I like you said, it might be like quote unquote like a women's herb or something, but I love consuming it. And yeah, it's full of nutrition. I also like your mint suggestion. We're hoping to grow some catnip. Amanda's going to be creating this like catio in the backyard.
That's so cute.
Yeah, and we want to like plant some fresh catnip over there. So yeah, great suggestions. So you run a YouTube channel. It's called Her Healthy Home. I don't know how long you've been at it, but I suspect years. You've got like hundreds of videos. You're prolific. You're even more prolific than what we're publishing here at HerbRally. And I'm just kind of curious about your journey. I saw the other day you sent out a newsletter where you recalled back to like your first video. I want to say it was even on a different channel, and it's just so cool to see that your progression, your on-screen presence, and just how much better you've gotten over the years. And I'm just kind of curious about your YouTube journey.
Oh yeah, so I've had this YouTube channel for about 2 years. I actually used to make videos, but then when I got pregnant, I stopped making videos. And then after I had my son, so my second child, I actually came back. So I would say it's probably about 2 years that I've been consistently. But yeah, what you talked about, I think that was 7 years ago. And I never even published that video. I was too nervous. And so it took some time to even come back for the second time to say, this is something that you should do. And when I was doing it, I just wanted to share different things, and I was doing cooking, I was doing sewing, I was doing everything. But then I just started to focus more on herbs because I felt like that's the way that I could help more people. And so, yeah, so it has just, I'm amazed by what has happened. You never think it is possible, but yeah.
Would you say that's like your main way of like, say, marketing the products that you sell, the herbal products and the books and everything?
Yeah, most of the people that find me usually is from YouTube. That's my biggest source. And I like it because I get to talk long, and go on about the different things that I love. And, for people to be able to see me and interact with me, I love it.
Yeah, just before we recorded this podcast, you were just on a live. Again, you're always on YouTube. You're always doing these lives and everything. And so I just tuned in for a little bit just because I was, doing research for this podcast and I saw you were live. So I joined in. And you said something about emotional trumps the physical. And I really liked that. And I was just wondering if you could expound upon that for the HerbRally audience.
Yeah. So what I was talking about is that the emotional, someone was asking about the energetics. And so I had shared that the energetics and the emotional part is more important than the physical, because there's certain times where your body will go on what the emotions or what the energetics are saying. So if you're stressed or, nervous and you're tense, your body goes into this where it wants to, protect you. And so it's just trying to keep you alive. And so you can turn off all the other functions of your body, including digestion, because you don't need that necessarily in that moment to survive. And so we have to be mindful that even if we just are trying to work on the physical, if we don't work on the emotional, then you're never really going to see the difference. Because again, the emotional can trump the physical in some aspects. And, also, in the same way, the physical can cause emotions as well. And so it's always going back to the emotional component.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd bring that up. I would say a lot of my journey has been like, as far as getting into herbalism and nutrition, was me like having this light bulb moment in my late teens where I was like, holy shit, nutrition actually has an effect on your brain and like the way that you feel about yourself and your, just overall happiness. And I would say that I was like a pretty depressed person for a lot of my like youth. And then when I discovered that, I made these like, leaps and bounds in my nutrition and sleep and exercise and all that. And then lo and behold, all of a sudden I'm feeling way better, like go figure. But I like how you said that it kind of goes both ways.
Yeah. And just add to that too. The studies that show that just even walking without shoes barefoot on the ground is really grounding to you and calming to you. Or even our seniors, when they're working in the garden, it was found that it adds like longevity to their life. And so it's like, they're just out in the garden. They're just absorbing the sun. They're absorbing the plant's energy, but it does something to their body, so that's how you can see that there really is a connection, and your mind is really important part of the healing. I think that's where it comes from first, in the mindset.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the whole barefoot thing too. Yeah, I would, when I first became a hippie, I would, intentionally go out in nature barefoot. We just spent a whole day out yesterday in the woods, and that also makes you feel really good, really enlivened and everything. So yeah, getting back to nature is also super good. I was curious, you have a video on your YouTube channel about when do you get to call yourself an herbalist? And I would love your take, because that's like a very common question. We asked the HerbRally audience, if you could ask your favorite herbalist any question, what would it be? That one came up time and time again. It seems to be like, if you're a new herbalist, you're like, well, when do I get to call myself an herbalist? So I'd love to hear you explain that.
Right. I think the main thing about that is, it's something that you shouldn't ask another person, so that you can feel, permission to call yourself an herbalist. I feel like it's something that and it's more than, there's no, checklist to make the perfect herbalist, right? Or you can't go and, they build a bear, but you can't build the perfect herbalist. So it's going to look different from each person. But, sometimes you may start with a hobby, or you just like drinking a lavender tea. But once you start actually using herbs more, and you're like, wow, you see a transformation in yourselves, and you become more connected to the plants and understanding. And maybe even people start coming to you wanting some of that knowledge that you have. It doesn't necessarily have to be, a certain requirement. But I think when you're ready. And, once you kind of cross over to, once you cross over to just being curious, or, just dipping your feet in the water, like you're like, this is something I actually want to do. This is something, that you're doing every day. This is something that you feel good about. I think that's when you're ready. Now, the knowledge you always will continue. Nobody knows everything about plants. But yeah, it's that feeling first, your own intuition and your connection first with the plants that comes first.
Yeah, one of my OG herbal teachers, Howie Brownstein, basically says you're an herbalist when your community starts coming to you for herbalist advice. I really like that. Also, you don't have to be a clinical herbalist to be an herbalist. Like my brother calls me an herbalist. I'm always like, nah, I'm not an herbalist. But, I run a freaking herbal education platform. And I've taken multiple apprenticeships and studied with all sorts of people. So yeah, all right, HerbRally. Okay, I'm an herbalist at this point. But it's very weird though. Like it's weird for me to like call myself that. Like, it's like I'm bestowing some sort of title upon myself, but I've been at this for a couple decades now or so. So, but yeah,
you're more than ready. Yeah. And people have to remember there's beginner herbalists. So they sometimes are looking to their favorite herbal teachers, and they're like, oh, I'm nowhere near that. So they feel like they're not ready, but your teacher wasn't like that 10, 20 years ago either.
Good point.
And so it's not like they weren't an herbalist, or they just became an herbalist after 20 years. Yeah. So it's a part of a journey. It's a process. And you being an herbalist looks different than someone else being an herbalist too.
Amen. And kind of dovetailing off of that, you also have a video about what are some things you wish you knew as a beginning herbalist. I'd like to hear you talk a bit about that.
I feel like I've learned so much from the mistakes, but I do want to also try to, let people know if I see them kind of doing these things. One of the things that I always talk about is trying to memorize all the herbs, because that's how I started. And I was just memorizing different things. And then if you're not actually doing anything to retain the knowledge, you're not actually putting the application of the knowledge, you're going to forget, and you're not going to get where you want to get. And so I always tell people that instead of just trying to know the what's, or I always say I hate the what questions, because we want people to kind of tell us or teach us things, and we should try to find out things on our own. So books are great. I have books. I read books all the time, but I say that we want to make sure that we're also experiencing too. So don't just go by what you can memorize about the herb. Actually try the herb. Actually, you try the tea, and you tell me in your own words what you feel from it, and how you feel, or how it changed you. So I think just getting out of memorization and trying to experience and experiment and learn things on your own, I feel like that's where we get the most out of our herbal journey.
Speaking of books, I'd like you to chat about your new book,
Yes.
Herbal Holistic Healing, African Herbalism for Modern Times.
Yes. I feel like this book is just so needed, because so many more people are interested in learning more about herbs. And this is the book here. It's basically a textbook. Yes. But yeah, so a lot of people are wanting to know more about herbs. And I would say more information is not what we need. We have Google for that. We have chat, GPT. Like there's so many different books. There's so much information out there. And so it's like, how are you actually, are we coming up with new insights? Experimentation, I would say, is so important. Are we experiencing the herbs for ourselves? Because you may read something and don't let it stop you from trying. Like, I've read cleavers is one of the hardest herbs to dry, but I dried it and it worked really well. It worked really good in my climate. But if I would have just took what I read, then I wouldn't have found that out for myself. So it's all about relearning. And our ancestors didn't have all of this knowledge that we have. They didn't have Google but they were so wise and they were so smart. And so how did they learn? They learned by observing. And so I think that we need to get more of these instincts that, animals and insects and all of them have. They observe, but we don't really just observe. We just kind of want to absorb. So we want to just make sure that I'm trying to get back to relearning some of the old habits of, our forefathers and how they first looked at herbs, because they didn't have books. So they had to find out on their own.
Is there a particular place you'd like to send people to purchase the book? I know it's on Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I actually have it on my website as well. Actually, you can put in my name, KhadiYahPreciado.com. You can go to it. You can actually just put in my first name, KhadiYah.com. But yeah, I prefer that you buy it from me because, Amazon has their portion, and I actually up the price on Amazon. So it's a little bit more to offset some of that cost. So yeah, to support me. And if you want me to sign your book, I can do that for you. So I do prefer that you get it from me, but just get the knowledge however you can.
So it is a big book. And like you said, it's borderline like a textbook. I did kind of want to talk about the price. It does seem like upon first looking at it, might be like, oh, this is more expensive than other books. But at the same time, you're probably, are you self-publishing that one?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, HerbRally's looking at doing a book as well at some point, and we're going to go the self-publishing route because you just have way more control over like the creative process and whatnot. But I was just hoping you could kind of speak to why it is, say, pricey. And I just want to say, if you do purchase the book, you're supporting KhadiYah and your work. You know what I mean? So I really like that you value it that way. But yeah, I just was wondering if you could kind of speak to the price and everything.
I could go at it many ways.
Sure.
So this book is not just information. Of course, you want information when you purchase it, but I teach more of for you to learn how to get the answers on your own. And so you can take this knowledge, which is a lot. It's 514 pages. So it's a lot. Yeah. But there's still much more where you're going to have questions and you'll know how to actually apply all the information and how to find it for yourself. So I break down, the different organ systems that we have and the different actions that, will correlate and, the energetics of all of it and explaining to you how I actually make the formulas that I make. And all of that. So you will know how to do it for yourself. So you get this, you get knowledge, you get, my 10 years of knowledge in here. But then you get to now be above the curve and know how to do it for yourself. And so that's what I feel like. It's more than there's information and there's empowerment. And I feel like we did both. But if that's not, good enough reason on its own, it is 514 pages. It is full color and it is extremely heavy. The book is, I think at least 3.5 pounds on its own. And so for them to be able to print it, and they're actually going up on the price in June. So yeah, just for a color book of 514 pages, we have lots of color pictures in here for you guys. But yeah, so it does come at a premium price because of the premium product that it is.
Amen. And yeah, that money's going directly to you than say like the publishers, where when I actually met with some people with a I won't name the publishing company. It's fine. But when we were meeting with them to talk about like the cut, I'm pretty sure that we would be taking home like 5 to 10% at the most of the sale of the book. Whereas in this case, I'm guessing most of it goes to you. So I think that's pretty sweet. Yeah.
Depending on I have the ebook, and actually I get less than Amazon gets for it. So I want to have it so it's available for people on multiple platforms, but probably later on I will decide just to do it on my website, just because they take I think 70%. So it's a lot. Yeah. But for the other parts, you can choose a little bit more.
So can you say your website? Because I always want to say it's Her Healthy Home, but I know that's your YouTube channel. You have a different website.
I have a million domains.
Okay.
So I do have herhealthyhome.co, like company, C-O. So you can go to herhealthyhome.co. That's probably the easiest and you won't misspell it. So yeah, you definitely can. You can actually / books and you can see all my books.
Awesome. So it's about African herbalism. I'm curious if you could just kind of give your brief, because I know you you have like a whole 2-hour class on it, which we don't really have the time for today, but I'm just kind of curious if you could give a brief synopsis of the importance of African herbalism.
Yes. So the importance of African herbalism, many different ways. Again, relearning some of our older traditions of understanding herbs. I feel that we understand them deeper, just like when we meet someone and we're looking at the different features and things that they have, we're interacting with them and we learn about them. It's the same way we should approach herbs. So it's pretty much teaching you to do that. And from understanding the characteristics, just like we have personalities, the characteristics of the plant, the where it grows, the way that it grows, the color that it has, the texture that it has. All of those things are, pretty much like, I guess I'll say secrets of the plants. Like if you have a best friend and they tell you secrets, it's the same way. So it's connecting to the plants and then also connecting to the body. So we have different organs. They have 5 foundational organs, and then all the other organs have a beneficial, or they interact with one another. So whenever you see maybe a certain issue somewhere, we see how it always kind of spreads throughout the body. And so with African herbalism, we can understand the relationships of the different organs. So we can see the different, and I always try to condense things and I have a hard time with that. I want to show an example of how this works. So I did a post recently about PCOS. And so as herbalists, a lot of times we will go for, I would say, the obvious. So we might look at urinary herbs for the urinary system, or I'm sorry, for the woman's reproductive system. But there's other things you have to think about. So 40% of people that actually have PCOS will have diabetes. So we'll have insulin resistance. And the reason why is because the insulin is obviously correlated with diabetes, but also the insulin also will fuel the PCOS. And so once you have this higher levels of PCOS, it fuels androgens, which is why we have the symptoms of maybe acne, which is caused by androgens, or the hair. And those are male hormones that show, through facial hair and things like that with people with PCOS. So if we don't look at the pancreas also, then we're always still going to be fueling it. So we might be able to help and maybe see a little bit of change, but if we don't address the whole thing, and I know that probably was a choppy way to explain it, but if we're not addressing the androgen problem, we're not addressing the insulin problem, well, then we're still always going to have more cysts that are forming. So, but we would know that from African herbalism because we have, each of the organs has one that it promotes. So if I'm promoting a beneficial reaction on this organ and something's wrong with me, something's wrong here too. So we would know that, we would be able to make those connections, but because we don't really know our bodies as well nowadays either, we don't know that. So it's all about learning about the body, how it works, how it functions, and then knowing so much about the herbs, how they function, so we can put it all together.
Nice. And as I was saying, you have a class in the HerbRally Schoolhouse called Heritage and History, Herbalism Through the Eyes of Our Ancestors. That's a 70-minute webinar. And you also have the Foundations of African Herbalism, which is over 2 hours long. So if you kind of want to expound upon or listen in more about that, you could go to herbrally.com/schoolhouse. Speaking of Schoolhouse, I did want to shout out Starlight for joining us. So we got someone, one of our members joining us. So that's pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I was bummed. I was hoping one of your people from your audience could join us too. I never got them that link, but that's all good.
Yeah.
They can see the replay. So, so speaking of books, I was just curious. Besides your own, do you have any like reference books that you constantly go back to, or that you'd recommend to not necessarily the beginning herbalist, but anyone interested in herbalism?
Yeah.
Or so resources too. It could be like a herbal resource. Yeah.
Okay. I do have a lot of different books, and I guess I kind of categorize them. So just about general herbalism books that I like. Yeah.
Any sort of like herbalism books that you like.
For beginner herbalists, I do like Maria Noel Grove's book, Body into Balance. I know that she's also in Schoolhouse.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a really good book. I love the pictures because I really feel like you have to see color pictures to see what the herbs really look like. And it does delve into like the body, and I think that that's important, and I feel like it shouldn't be left out. So I do like that. For African herbalism, I do like Dr. Leila's book, African Holistic Health.
Cool.
I'm trying to think. There's another one. It's by Penelope Adi, but it's like an older book, so you might have to find it like a eBay or maybe Amazon, like back in the day.
Yeah.
But she has a book, and I can't remember what the exact title is. But again, has a page on each of the herbs. They have pictures of the herbs. It talks about energetics too, and some of the actions. So I feel like that's a really good book too. I'll maybe look it up really quickly on my phone to see the name of it.
For sure.
The Complete Medicinal Herbal.
Cool.
I think that should be the name of it.
Yeah, that one rings a bell. I'm glad you mentioned Maria Noel Grove's book. I feel like a lot of people do recommend that as like one of their foundational herbalism books. And I want to say even herb schools use that as part of their curriculum. And then when I had her on the show, I was talking to her about that. And she's like, yeah, I just can't believe the response to that book. It really has become quite foundational for a lot of herbal learning.
Right. Yes.
But kind of shifting gears a little bit, it's kind of a broad question. I'm just kind of curious, and I've never asked anyone else this on the show yet. I'm just kind of curious, what is the mission of your work? Like, why do you do what you do?
Oh, yeah. I really want to help as many people as I can, but of course, I'm limited. So when I'm teaching people, I don't want to just give them an answer for today. I really want to empower them so they can know how to find the answers on their own. And if they're able to also help their communities, I just want to help as many different communities as we can, because, you know, we can't always depend on the government or things like that, initiatives. Sometimes we have to take initiative ourselves. And so for things like food deserts, I feel like those are things that us as a people can eradicate. So just with having the knowledge, I feel like just to get the knowledge out there to empower people to say, hey, you do play a big role in your health. And just to get people to not always outsource their health, you know, or to think that it's something outside of themselves, even like they're not qualified enough or they're not good enough. But to let people know that that it is something that you can learn. This is back in the day. I feel like there was a lot more knowledge about herbs or all of these different things. And because they didn't have the choice, but even though we have the choice, I feel like we should still choose to be independent, I would say, with our health as much as we can.
I love that. And you're really doing it through your YouTube channel. It was so cool to jump on that live stream that you were doing. And there was a lot of people in there engaging and just saying how much they appreciate your work. And then, you know, you'll go to any random video of yours on your YouTube channel, and there's really a community forming there. And you could see like all the positive comments. You're really inspiring a lot of people who are more like, they haven't been in the herbal game or the health game for so long, but they're learning a lot from you. So it really seems like you're doing it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. You seem like a pretty organized person. Because I've seen videos of yours where you're like talk about labeling and stuff like that, and you were just talking about how you organize your books. I have a kind of a two-part question. You had a video on Shabbat. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
And meal planning. I'll ask the Shabbat part next, but I was just curious if you wanted to give like a brief description of, say, your meal planning process. And I'll say the reason I'm asking is because I'm a total organizational nerd as well, and I love, it's so bizarre. This is going to sound really weird. On Friday night, instead of like going out and like partying or whatever, I was like, I'm going to the grocery store, and I'm going right now because it's Friday night and there's going to be nobody in there, and I'm going to be able to get in and out and take my time. And, you know, we're in a new town, and I really like trying to find the healthiest food on a budget and stuff like that. I'm just kind of curious if you have any tips or tricks for your meal planning or grocery shopping.
Yeah, for meal planning, I'm a person that usually comes in with good intentions and then just won't go through if it's too hard for me. So what I found that worked for me was making meal plans for the week. So we have foods that, you know, we love. And if we ever get tired, we kind of switch it up a little bit. So I found that by doing that, having the same core meals and just maybe changing up a little bit can help. But it also lets you know how much you need to spend every single week. And it's flexible where you can change it if you need to, but you don't feel like, if you didn't prep the night before, so it's just, I find it to be flexible for me. So, I just find we have a certain amount of fruit and we just do seasonally. So I'm spending the same amount, but I might change up the fruits a little bit. but during that month, we can get a lot of the same fruits, and so we could really enjoy that. And it just keeps you ready for the next thing. I guess that's all I really have about the meal planning. I find just taking it by week and just repeating that, just finding systems that work and just keep on with it. If you get tired of a certain meal, try it a different way. I used to always be into, that's when I was eating meat. I used to always be into getting a whole chicken and making it into 3 or 4 meals. So I think it's, good to just have systems. Whenever I would get a bunch of produce, I would like to wash it, cut it up all at one time. And I would, put them in containers so they're ready to drop in. And I just have meals made with all different things, whether it's celery, carrots, it can be a stew, it can be a soup, it can be pot pie if you got leftovers. That's the way I kind of do it. Just make it easier on myself so that it's not a chore, but it's something I still enjoy.
I'm all about the cooking with scraps. Like, what do you have left over? And then it forces you to be creative. Was I right about the assumption, like, you are kind of an organized person?
Yeah. It can be good sometimes, but I'm a little perfectionist, a little bit more than I should be, and a little bit more, control freak, but I've learned to let go of it. But yeah.
Totally. Well, I was alluding to the whole Shabbat part of that question. I'm just kind of curious if you could speak to the importance of rest.
Oh yeah, rest is really important. We have to give our bodies a break, and turn off to rejuvenate ourselves. Sometimes, and I feel like herbalists, we're just so loving, we're so caring about everything, we want to do everything, but sometimes we really do need to rest and reset, and even to be able to reflect on the things that's happened. So we have to take breaks, and rest is really important. And I feel like you can't, if you're not at your greatest capacity, you cannot help in the greatest capacity. If you don't have your cup full, there's nothing to come out of it. So it is really important to take some time to breathe. And I feel like, again, we're also like usually very creative and things like that. But you can have that creative block if you just never have time to just stop doing. So time to rest your mind, time to relax your body to be able to keep going, and to do things well. You have to. It's not going to be sustainable if you never rest.
I love that. Amanda recently basically enforced me to take days off or weekends off. And it's kind of ironic because I'm doing a podcast right now, which is technically work, although it is enjoyable. So I probably won't be scheduling interviews on the weekend anymore. But it was, throughout the week, I was like really starting to look forward to this weekend. And then guess what? It's almost the end of this weekend. I'm like, wow, I'm really looking forward to my work week now. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's like invigorates and inspires you to like keep going with your work, and everybody needs that downtime. Is Shabbat is that a Christian thing? Is that the same thing as a Sabbath?
Yes. It's a Bible thing. I don't necessarily call myself a Christian, but I'm a Bible believer. But yeah, that's Saturday Sabbath rest that I practice.
Okay, so I was gonna say, because you're working too today.
So that's what we're doing it on Sunday. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're both still good. Okay. Well, I'm curious, what are some of your current favorite plant allies and why?
I feel like it definitely changes. Right now, I'm really loving my comfrey because it's like I plucked it up and I planted it, and I knew it wasn't the best time. That's something I should have done in fall, but I did. I just decided to do it, and seeing it bloom and blossom, it's just really kind of like invigorating me and making it like it's like I'm watching it birthed again. So it's something that I'm enjoying, and I'm really enjoying actually blackberries. I mean, we do use it in a medicinal way, not usually, but I'm just amazed by how they're growing. And so just using it more. I have all these different leaves that I can utilize. So just gonna experiment with it more. Yarrow. Right now they just opened, so I'm using it. I'm trying to use it, trying to save enough that I can have, for the whole year. So pretty much just seeing what's out there. I was just picking some elder flowers and making a hydrosol with that. So it's pretty much just seeing what's growing. And those are my favorite plants at the moment because I'm working with them, every day. And I really enjoy that time, working with them until, and then the end of the season or when they're past their prime.
It's so exciting every time like a new season comes along. You get excited for, say, a new plant and whatnot. I'm curious as far as comfrey goes. At my house in Oregon, I planted comfrey in my backyard, and I heard that it's actually really good for the soil and for the health of the garden. Do you have any information on that?
Yes. So comfrey is actually used like a chop and drop fertilizer because the comfrey roots, they grow so deep and they're able to get to the layers where other plants can't. So it can get all of those micronutrients. And so it basically it's in the leaves. And so that's why you can actually use it as like a garden tea or comfrey tea where people just steep it in water and pour it out. Or just chop it and drop it and let it break down so you can get some of those minerals. But the grass or whatever you have would never be able to get it because it can't do what comfrey root can. So yeah, it is really wonderful.
Yeah, I heard once you plant it, it's basically there forever.
Yeah, I thought I dug out all of it, but I was like, hopefully I didn't. Hopefully there was a little bit in there and it came back to where I even pulled it out. So yeah, it definitely will be hard to get it. And I pulled out, several feet and it was only about maybe 2 or 3 years old. I think it was 2 and it was already multiple feet. And so I couldn't even see the rest of it. So it is really amazing.
I'll still have to add it to our garden checklist. I do miss having that. And I know the pollinators enjoy it as well.
Yeah, the beautiful flowers. Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. Well, let's see. We've got maybe you're down to keep going, maybe another 10 minutes or so. Yeah. Awesome, cool, sweet. Yeah. I guess we started maybe 5 minutes after the hour. Anyways. Yeah, you're very good at it. Yeah. Well, this might be another kind of broad question, but do you have any advice for working the business side of herbalism? Any tidbits you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think, just like herbalism is really a learning experience, I think the business really is too. To learn, you kind of, I think with business, you learn, there's so many different ways, I guess I could say it, and I'm trying to condense it. That's why I'm taking a pause.
Sure.
But yeah, with the business, again, we're so loving, we care about everything, and we want to help everybody. But learning also, just like with the rest, you can't help, everyone. So sometimes you may have to prioritize your strengths as well. And it can be hard to not be able to help every single person, but knowing also your boundaries too, to not feel like you have to. You can recommend another herbalist, if you're not comfortable. But I think that the other part about it is pricing too, because we're so loving and we want to just practically give it away. We just want you to be healthier. But also learning too to price, and just like when you feel like, what am I ready to be a herbalist? It feels like, I can't charge, this and that. And so I feel like with business, you learn a lot to value yourself and your time and what you're doing and the importance of it and being able to make sure that it aligns, both of it aligns. So I would say some things can kind of teach you more about yourself and how high your self-esteem is. When I first started doing YouTube, I realized, I was like, oh, I didn't think I had any insecurities, but now, it's bringing up some things. And business will kind of be like that too. It really will. It's really like a grown up thing that, you really will grow. And I just love being able to mix both of them because you learn so much immensely from even the people that you work with as well. The other thing that I say is to really be flexible, be malleable. Nobody is perfect. And so, sometimes we want to just get them to change everything. As soon as they walk out the door, you want them to have a whole new regimen of food. You want them to love taking dandelion and things like that. I think we need to be a little bit more patient too. And just, and flexible to work with people, I think. But yeah, I think those are probably my main things that I would say. It's really a learning experience, but just, enjoy the ride and help people the best that you can, but make sure that it's sustainable for you too.
I love all of those points. I want to say you did really 3 basic points. Have you made a video about this before or something?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Because I found that some of the people I was working with actually are going on to make their own businesses. And so from wanting to help them, some of the things that I see that they struggle with, especially is, the pricing or feeling like they're ready. So that's why I always let people know, like, if you have, go for it, right? And don't let fear hold you back.
I might just clip that whole section and make that like a separate video too, because it was so concise and so well put. And I really like your point about like the business helping you grow as a person. HerbRally has helped me in so many ways. And one of them is like, say, the Herbalist Hour, the podcast, because I was always like a very shy person. A lot of people knowing me might think that's weird because I'm pretty outgoing, but like, I don't like putting myself out there in this way. So it's like helped me push the boundaries of what I thought was possible for myself. So I really like that you brought that up.
Yeah.
Any recommendations on how to introduce children to herbalism? I know you've got at least a couple kiddos, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have two. I feel like children, try to start, from the time that they start eating, because I think it's so much easier to incorporate it. And it can start by, even when you're making like some squash or sweet potatoes or whatever you start with, maybe having a little bit of herbs in there, because, you don't want to put like salt or, things like that, but just having different flavors. You don't want, they don't have to have, something that's totally bland. But definitely I say the same way that we lead our children to eat is the same way we should kind of lead them with herbs. So don't go with a bunch of blends when we don't know if they're allergic to anything. So start off with one thing, and so you can know if something has a negative reaction, you'll be able to know and pinpoint what it was. But I feel like my kids, if they see me doing it, they want to do it, or kids are so interested in anything. If it has a cool red color, cool purple color, whatever, they're all for it and they want to help you. So just having them help you, and I feel like they can also keep you accountable too. But in letting them share in on the process, when they ask you questions, sometimes kids can ask a million questions. Ask it and also let them, experiment with you and find out and learn with you. But yeah, I would just say, just make sure you do one at a time. And if you're trying to give them something, make sure you dose it properly if it's for something else. But yeah, I let my daughter, I put herbs in front of her. She makes her own tea. She has a teaspoon and she creates it and makes her own blend. She calls it her red tea. And so, yeah, I think that kids just naturally pick things up. They naturally learn more by observation, like I talked about. Then, they learn, like, what to say. It's not, you tell them do as I say, but they really learn, what you actually do. So.
Do they think what you do is pretty cool? Or
yeah. And I was looking at my children. I was just like, wow, like they are just naturals. The way my daughter is just like, I was like, I wish I could get my camera out fast enough. She's just over here just interacting with the herbs. And I'm over here. I need to get my gloves to have these thorned raspberries, but she just naturally. And so you can really see that and pick that up. And I was looking at my son too, and it's just amazing. You'll see that your children, are natural herbalists. They'll just naturally pick it up and they're excited. Anything new is really exciting to them.
Love that. Well, curious, I've been asking this question lately to kind of end the show. We still got a few more questions, but what's something you like to do outside of the realm of herbalism, like a random hobby of yours?
Random hobby?
Yeah.
I really like working with like students. I really love that. I guess that's still herbalism. I just love, teaching and talking to people about the different herbs. And sometimes, and that's why I say our journeys look different, because they can teach you as well. So sometimes they may be giving suggestions. You're like, at first thought, I thought, no, but that's genius. Like, I wouldn't have thought of that. So I do love working with them. Other things that I like doing. That's my main things that I love. I'm trying to think.
Could I interject real quick? Every time I've asked this, I want to say you're the third or fourth person I've asked. All the answers have been essentially herbs. Yeah. So it just kind of surrounds our life. It's okay if you can't think of anything else.
Yeah,
but if you do,
I thought gardening, and I was like, oh,
right.
I do love reading. I do love reading books.
Yep, that's a popular answer too so far. We're all a bunch of nerds, plant nerds.
Yeah, and even saying maybe hiking or being outdoors. I guess it all just we just can't get away from the herbs. No. So that's how you know when you're an herbalist. When
that's right,
it takes over, right? And they choose for you.
Yeah, totally. Well, kind of along the same lines, do you mind if we do like a random card from the Let's Get
Okay.
Deep? All right, let's do it. So I'll just choose a random card. We'll get to know KhadiYah a little bit better.
Okay.
So, what are your pet peeves?
Oh, pet peeves?
Or any pet peeves?
I'll relate to herbalism right now. It's not a pet peeve, really, but I'm getting people out of saying the what questions. So anytime I hear what herb can I use for, that's the most often question that I think us as herbalists get is what can I use for? And I find myself explaining why I don't answer that question a lot of different ways. So I'll just explain it. But the good thing about it is it really teaches you how to explain things. When you have to explain things, 100 different times, 100 different ways, it really helps you also as well. So it's not I hate when you ask me this question, or I hate, it's just reminding me that that there's a lot of relearning that we have to do. Yeah. And I think that we're used to the educational system. Like there's one way to get in and get out. Like there's one way to get the knowledge. So letting people know that it's okay to get, if this is the way that resonates with you, it's okay to do that, or it's okay to do something different. Can I explain why I don't like that question?
Yeah, of course. And actually, I'll say this: you do. I've got the time for you, KhadiYah. I got the time. I will say you also do have a video on this as well. I want to say on your YouTube channel, if I'm recalling correctly. But yeah, please share.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I have videos about it, and people are still in the comments. It's just, it's funny, but I know that that's just the way we're wired to think. Because we're used to, going to the doctor, they say you have this and you need to take this. So you think that everybody who has this needs to take this. But with herbs, we have so many different choices. We're still finding out thousands of herbs each year. And so we really, as many people as there are, we have herbs. And I mean, herbs were here before us as well. And so when you think about what can I use for, you have no context. Like if you go to the doctor's office, they're going to have you fill out a form. They're going to have your health history. You're going to talk to the nurse. She's going to ask you questions about what you're doing. They're going to have, your blood to go on. They're going to have maybe a urine analysis, all these different things. But then when you come to an herbalist, you just expect from one sentence, they should know what to tell you. And so we need just as much information to be able to actually come up with a recommendation that, makes sense for you. We don't look at the symptom. We look at you as a person. And so we want to make sure that we can look at your unique situation and come up with maybe the herb or unique herbs and bring them together in a way that makes sense for you. So if we think about everybody who has, this person might have this symptom and this symptom, or this person might have, symptom number 3 and symptom number 4. So there's no illness is the same for all of us. And so no herb is going to be for everyone. So we have to kind of get out of what herb can I use for? And herbs do more than one thing. I'm always letting people know they do more than one thing. It's not just a cold and flu remedy. It does multiple things. So we need to know how it's working as well. So we know how we need to address the issue as well. So how, why, those are the questions we want to ask, so we can get more information. We get much more than just a one sentence, or a one herb answer.
Mic drop. I love it. Your hobbies are herbs, your lifestyles are herbs, and your pet peeves are herbs. So
right.
Right on. Well, kind of the final question of the before we learn about where to learn about you and find more about you. But what's your big why and what keeps you learning and growing with this herbalism?
I think choices are important. And I think a lot of times we do things and we don't realize that there is other choices, or there might be a better way. And so it isn't until we find out that this choice didn't work for us that we're trying to now scramble for something else. But I feel like we have much more access to information. So we should also know about options, and so I really want, herbs to be more commonplace. I mean, there's no place where you can go where there isn't herbs, even the coldest mountains or the hottest desert, there still are plants that are able to thrive. And so we need to know about, like I said, our elders, which are the plants. We need to know about them. We need to know so many times what you need is right there, but you just don't even know. So to be able to have so many people look differently about herbs and not just think of them as what I take when I don't feel well, but also knowing that when I am well, that these can help strengthen me, or these can help, do support me, or these, so knowing that, think outside the box and know that there's options, and that we do play, like I said, a big role in our health. And so being empowered to know that you should, and there's people that are ready to help you.
Love it. Well, that's a nice way to wrap up the show. Where do you want to send folks to learn more about you and your work?
Yes, you can check out my website. I have books, I have classes, I have all different things, videos, more videos that you can check out. And you can just search my name, KhadiYahPreciado.com, or just my first name if it's too hard, too long, KhadiYah.com, or herhealthyhome.co as well. So many different ways to get to that one place.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll leave links in the podcast show notes along with the YouTube description and so on. So thank you so much, KhadiYah, for joining us on the Herbalist Hour. That was a lot of fun.
And thank you so much as well for always being a gracious host. And I love working with you all. And I definitely will be sending people your way to check out all the resources that you have. Thank you for being a place where herbalists can come and get so much information and knowledge from so many different minds. So thank you for what you do.
I love that. Thank you so much, KhadiYah. We'll talk to you soon. All right.
All right. Thank you.
All right. See y'all in the next episode. And that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the HerbRally podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us here at HerbRally, we now have a text message community, believe it or not. Basically, it's just updates from us. We send about 1 to 7 texts per week, notifying you about new events, videos, courses, podcasts. You get the idea. It's pretty much like our email newsletter, just in text form. So if you'd like to receive text messages from HerbRally, just text JOIN, that's JOIN, to the number 541-256-2895. Again, that's JOIN to number 541-256-2895. And to stop receiving text, that's easy too. Just text STOP to the same number. It'll opt you out immediately. Okay, thanks again for listening. Have a great rest of your day.